What's up, everybody? As some of you might know, I posted an AMA recently on Twitter, and today's video is going to be answering those questions that you guys have for me. First up is @frame1_gimp asks, maybe this question has been asked a lot before, but what's your mindset? Like, what do you actually do to keep yourself in the game? I've been struggling to keep my head up. So my mindset in-game, maybe this has to do with being focused while you're in the game, and to me, what always keeps me actually attentive and focused on the game is actually kind of verbalizing what's going on. Let's say like, okay, Fox just full hop to side platform. Okay, Captain Falcon just grabbed the ledge. Okay, Marth full hop waveland side platform or something. If I verbalize those thoughts in my head, Melee is such a quickly paced game that there's no time for me to think about anything else. I can't think about what it's like to lose or how much I want to win or what's everyone gonna think or something like that. There's just no room for it. So my advice would be to verbalize the things in your head that are actually going on the screen, and that helps me stay focused. Next question is from Pi Loves You and asks, would you rather A, have every tournament be online on laggy delay netcode, or B, discuss Falco colors constantly on every single stream? Woo! Delay-based netcode is probably the worst thing in the entire universe. I was losing my mind towards the end of the delay-based netcode era, so as much as I hate talking about Falco colors, I probably have to go with that. Next question is from John Doe X100. Says, how do you come back from extended breaks, like a week or something, and catch up on practice? Cody, I think, was one to really speak on how detrimental time off is and how it made it hard to take breaks at all. Would love to hear your thoughts. This is a tricky one. To be completely honest, I don't know if I've taken a full week-long break in the last 5 years. I think that taking breaks are bad. I have a video on my channel about how taking breaks are bad. I think it would just be a detriment. I think if you have to catch up on practice, you're just gonna be more susceptible to burnout. I think that you just lose that week and live with that for the rest of your life. Next up, we have @teal_SSB. What do you think is your best matchup relative to other top Falco mains, and what do other birds need to know to catch up? Goodness, my best matchup in relation to other Falco mains would probably have to be Ice Climbers or Jigglypuff. I think a lot of the times, I think the punish game on those characters is a little bit different than, let's say, how Falco might combo Fox, Falco, and Falcon. So, I would say that most people need to start with understanding how to punish sort of mid-weight characters, or floaties. I think a lot of people have trouble doing that. And the more they focus on it, the more they practice it, I think the better they'll get at it. But I will say it's not as fun practicing the punish game on those characters, so I understand that some people might not want to do that, but that's what you have to do to get good. Next question is from @CasperDial. What goes through your mind when you begin your punish game, and does this change based on the type of player or character that you're playing against? Usually, this is what I tell my students, is that as soon as the punish game starts, it's almost a one-player game. There's a very dynamic defensive game within Melee, and that's really cool, and it is a two-player game to some degree, but at the same time, they are locked in hit stun. That is the goal of comboing your opponent, right? So all I think is, which way has this guy DI'd? Are they SDIing in a way that's reactable? And then I sort of look for DI mix-ups as I get them into certain positions. Sometimes I have just like literal true combos, like if I shine a Fox at 0 on FD, I'm gonna have a true combo there. But there are certain times where maybe I shine someone up to the top platform and then I look for a DI mix-up. Am I gonna hit them with the weak back air, or am I gonna hit them with a forward smash? Finding little DI mix-ups like that is what makes somebody's punish game so good, like Mango's. He is just chock full of little 50-50 DI mix-ups within his combo game. So I think about that a lot. Next question is from @Hudson4317. How did you come up with the tag Ginger? I was born with it. Jokes aside though, I was kind of stuck in this place where my old tag used to be Ultra Satanicus, and it's a silly name, it's a story for another time, but I realized I didn't want that to be my tag anymore. It was kind of too long, and I wanted a 2-syllable tag that people could cheer. I don't know if anyone's actually ever cheered Ginger, Ginger before, but I think that, you know, 2-syllable tags are just really good for that. I mean, imagine mango, mango. Everybody loves it. So I needed 2 syllables, and I spent probably a month kind of like tagless. I would just enter tournaments with a random tag. And I was just sort of thinking of a bunch of different tags, and Ginger kind of stuck. Question from @JulianHurley ATL says, do you have any long-term goals right now not related to Melee? Maybe streaming goals or cool life goals? 10,000 subs on YouTube, or 10,000. Isn't that crazy that we're getting to 10,000? And 30,000 followers on Twitch. I think those are some pretty good content-related goals. Outside of that, man, I just try to be a good person every day, be better than I was yesterday, you know what I mean? Not anything too serious. I have to let my cat in. He's clawing at my goddamn door. Hi. Hi. @PorkChopNC asks, what advice do you give to new players trying to learn the game? Depends on exactly how new they are, but I usually tell people that they should practice movement. I think character control is the #1 thing that's going to help people initially in the game, because no matter what you're doing, if you're trying to be defensive or play in neutral or do your punish game, you have to be able to move fluidly. So, and that's kind of what makes Melee so expressive, is the amount of control you have over exactly what you're doing. @SoulCalibur2 asks, why is Kirby your go-to low tier? I don't know. It started a really long time ago where I would play against my brother. He's 12 years older than me. He's way better than me at the game. And he would play Falcon, and I would play Kirby against his Falcon, and I would call it the Curbs. And I made this big comeback against his Falcon, and the meme was like, oh, you can never count the Curbs out. And so I just started money matching people with my Kirby, and yeah, I found the character kind of fun. It was cool. @DwightDL asks, thoughts on rectangle controllers like Box and Frame 1? These controllers right now in the online era are just cheating. They don't have the correct fixes in to actually nerf them to make them comparable to a GameCube controller, so they're actually just cheating. I don't like that about them, but when they have the nerfs, they're still kind of cheating, but they're more manageable, so that's kind of how I feel about it. I do want to say I enjoy that people that have hand problems are able to play a little bit more comfortably, which is awesome. @GlarbSnorb asks, how do you maintain your mindset after a bad loss? So it used to be that it would take me a really, 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 really long time to get over a loss. I would be upset about it for days, you know? But as I kind of maybe experience more and more loss in my life, I realize that kind of like, there's just another tournament 2 days from now. Like, whatever. Like, the loss that I had on Wednesday means nothing by Friday. And you really just have to focus on what's ahead of you. And luckily for me, I guess, is that there's nothing more motivating than a good loss. I really, really think, like, I never want to have that feeling ever again. Maybe some of you guys can relate to that. As soon as you lose, it's like, I just don't want to feel this way ever again. So then I go practice, because that's the one thing I'm trying to avoid. We got @GreenFloyd7. How did your day-to-day change, if at all, when Luminosity signed you? With so many people switching from one matchup to another, how do you deal with playing Falco against everything? What's your approach to practice against people like Zane or HBox? So we got a couple different questions here. My day-to-day hasn't changed too much, to be completely honest with you guys. For a long time, I was planning my LG Ginger's POG tournament, and that took up a lot of my time kind of day-to-day, because I really, really wanted that tournament to go well, and I think it did. The interesting thing about getting signed is, like, I was doing something right, you know, for them to want to sign me in the first place. So, you know, keep doing that and improve on it. I'm trying to make as much content as I can and win as many tournaments as I can. And then how do I deal with playing Falco against everything? I mean, I just get to practice every single matchup. I mean, queuing up against unranked opponents, you run into every different character. Luckily, I'm kind of at the upper echelon of Melee, so people want to play against me, so I can kind of say like, hey, good Marth main, do you want to play? And most people will say yes. So it's kind of easier for me to get good practice, and I think it's pretty easy for a lot of people to get practice in multiple matchups these days. What's my approach to getting practice against people like Zane or HBox? I mean, you just try as hard as possible every time you're playing them and try to pay attention. Play them, go back, watch the VODs, think about it. Yeah, just grind it out, just like I would anybody else. @Nethercole asks, what's the best way to keep Melee fun to help avoid getting burnt out? The best way to keep it fun is, I don't know. Casper, I don't have an answer for this question. I think there are a bunch of different ways that you could have fun with Melee if like the seriousness of competing is getting too much for you. I think you can play other characters, you can play silly game modes, there's like literally like volleyball now. So yeah, play doubles with your friends, just make sure to keep things lighthearted, play against people that you've played against like on your come up, play against your casual friends and try to teach them stuff. Teaching new players is a really fun way to do things too. So hopefully that kind of helps. At Fox with a bunch of numbers asks, hey Ginger, I recently started playing Melee just past the 1 year mark and I made Falco. I was wondering what is the best advice you would give an aspiring Falco player? I play at the minimum 6 hours a day, both grinding tech skill and playing ranked players in my region. If you aren't doing analysis already, I mean, I've already answered a bunch of questions that kind of mentioned analysis, but you need to be doing analysis. And if you're playing 6 hours a day, you should just be getting way better. That sounds insane. If you're legitimately practicing 6 hours a day and you're actually solo practicing, add in analysis and you will just improve. There's like nothing else to it. At Throne Orc asks, what's your favorite matchup as Falco? The Fox matchup. I think that it's just a really dynamic matchup with a bunch of different crazy things that can happen. Some of the other matchups like Falco versus Marth and stuff feel a little bit more streamlined to me, which kind of gets boring. Not actually boring, it's Melee, but you know, Fox matchup is just crazy. At Potion Seller asks, what's your happiest memory? And it's like a toss-up. I'll give you 2, which is kind of cheating. First time I beat Drug Fox at Big House 5, probably one of the biggest Melee upsets of all time that nobody really talks about. There were only 2 people watching, and after I beat Drug Fox, I gave him a very respectful fist bump, and then I went back and my practice partner was right behind me, and I shoved him and I said, let's go! And then I went around and I high-fived everybody in the venue, legitimately, and then I went outside and called my family. That's how excited I was. And then when I beat West Balls on the main stage of Big House 7, that was a pretty big moment in my career, and the crowd was insanely hype, and just all my friends gave me hugs afterwards. It was cool. It was cool, for sure. At Anonymous Games asks, any other games other than Melee are you a huge fan of? Yeah, I'm a huge fan of a bunch of different games. I love Counter-Strike. I've really been into Valorant recently. I used to watch the pro scene of League for a long time. Rocket League seems awesome. Just esports in general just seems so cool. I also just like very casually like the Paper Mario series, and I love World of Warcraft too. Even the competitive scene in World of Warcraft's awesome. So yeah, I love a bunch of different games. At Step Sanders asks, favorite band to see live? My favorite band ever is Nine Inch Nails, and they were my first concert, and it was insane, and I loved it. So maybe them. But they've changed a lot in the last few years, and I did see them when I was 14, which is like 11 years ago. But The Deer Hunter, one of my favorite bands, I've seen live 2 or 3 times now, and they're just incredible. Jeez. At Firecat SSB asks, when did you start playing Melee and why? I started playing Melee as soon as the game was released. I played it casually. My first tournament was in 2003. I went to a anime convention only to go actually play in the Melee tournament. My brother and I got first and second place, and we figured that we were some of the best players in the world. Not actually the case. There were a lot of people that were way better than us at that time, and then we ended up learning how to wave dash and L cancel and do all that stuff. Just kind of as a direct consequence of finding out about that kind of world. So yeah, around 2003 is when I would say I kind of started taking Melee kind of seriously. At Deborah SSBM asks, how do you play to actually improve rather than just sitting on unranked? It feels really hard right now to really focus on improving actual gameplay. This is kind of an interesting question. A lot of people ask me this, and I don't know if I'm the guy to answer it. Because for me, anytime I'm playing Melee, I can just focus on my execution at the worst, you know? Like, maybe I'm crushing my opponent, but I can still focus on, like, okay, well, I get this hit, I have to execute all these combos. And you can sort of think, like, okay, if you mess that sort of thing up, you get shield grabbed by a Marth, well, you'd probably die against Zane. You could always kind of consider that, right? Like, whatever unranked player you're playing against, it doesn't really matter. But you could think, I can't mess that up. Next time that happens, I cannot mess it up, because if I play against a better player, I'm going to get hit. So kind of just taking it seriously and imagining what could happen. That's kind of my advice. At Kyle Bortz asks, why are Canadian players not fond of you? This is kind of like a weird question that I think comes up kind of frequently. I think there's like a kind of a subsection of Ontario that isn't terribly fond of me. I think it started sometime around like 2015 or 16. Around that time, I had a huge ego. I was like on the come up and I thought I was really good. And I think the initial point where it kind of started is I lost to an up and coming Falcon player. And I tweeted out some dumb thing. I had like 400 followers at the time, so I figured I could just say whatever I wanted. But I mean, I was salty after a loss. I had traveled all the way to Canada. I wasn't like top 100, so it cost me a lot of money. And I ended up just losing. I was really disappointed in myself, and I was like, dang, Falcon just stomps me and then knees me and I just die. It feels kind of dumb. So that kind of started it. I think everyone in Canada was just like, oh, this guy's just like a crybaby or like a complainer, or like he's really complaining about Falco versus Falcon. And from there, I feel like people, like, once they see me lose today, they're like, oh, look at him complain still. And they're just like, this guy is just a salt lord or something. And I really do think it kind of started from there. But I will say, I think I'm friends with so many Canadian players. I've gone out to eat with so many Canadian players. I've hung out with people at tournaments. Gommel's one of my favorite tournament series ever. The Peterborough scene, I love all those guys. Faust and KO and those kinds of people. So yeah, I think that there's like a small subsect of people that kind of, we got off on the wrong foot and it was absolutely my fault. But yeah, that's what I got. At Leffen Fanboy asks, what are the biggest reasons why you improved so much in the last 2 to 3 years? What's different compared to before? There's not a ton that's different compared to before. There was a couple meme replies to this question that says Sammy lessons, but it might not even be a meme reply. And I don't take it as a meme because I actually think my discussions with Sammy are really good. Having someone keep you accountable, or even being accountable to yourself and saying like, I have to come back the next week with something to talk about, so I'm gonna enter a tournament, or I'm going to practice this matchup. Just knowing that there's another lesson around the corner is just sort of like this motivating thing that keeps me practicing. And on top of that, I get to have really, really interesting Melee discussions with somebody who understands the game on a really high level every single week for the past 2 years. Outside of that, it's just like commitment to the process. I had figured out a process that I thought was going to help me improve over time. And I think if you look at my win rate, I think that my process has proven true. So I'm pretty happy about that. At J Alexander and a bunch of numbers asks, what keeps you playing Melee? I don't think I'll ever stop until I'm the best player of all time. Yeah, I'm supremely motivated to continue pushing myself within the game, and it happens to be like the most fun thing in my life, so why wouldn't I keep doing it, you know? At Gerbungus says, hi Ginger. Hi Gerbungus. At Fair Down Smash says, best advice for a 1-2/2 tour, trying to improve but feeling like they plateaued. Get an outside perspective. Get somebody else to just watch one of your games. One of the biggest things that helped get me out of one of my plateaus a long time ago was Zoso, an old school Marth player, was doing some VOD reviews for subs on his channel, and I decided to sub. And he wasn't even a Falco player, but even just getting his perspective on like, hey, you should have maybe been considering this. And my brain was like, I had never considered that. Even if it wasn't optimal or whatever, and maybe I could have come up with something better, it's like, wow, I never even considered an option like that. And it doesn't have to be Zoso or a pro or anything like that. Just get somebody to review your games and kind of talk to them about what they might have been thinking about, and maybe it'll inspire you to think about something new. At Ben Hencluck says, can you do your best Carl Weezer impersonation? What does this guy sound like? I'm gonna put on my headphones. The best of Carl Weezer. Nope. At Exastoller asks, what is the best way for a beginner Melee player to learn to practically apply movement techniques learned in Uncle Punch? Learning these skills is one thing, but being able to actually use them in a way that improves your game seems to be a whole different mountain to climb. Yeah, I would just look for specific situations that you want to utilize that movement in, and then hardcore focus on those situations when they come up in game. You can literally get destroyed for the other 99% of situations that come up within the game, but just take it situation at a time and be like, okay, here I'm gonna utilize this movement that I just grinded. Like, I have to be able to do something with this in this specific situation. That's something that I did when I was on my come up, is just kind of focus on one thing per day. And slowly get better at essentially every situation in the game. At OKOppyDaily, or Okapi, at OKOppyDaily, I just said it the same way. At OKOppyDaily asks, what would you play? Brother. At Okapi, Oh wait, I said it right that time. Fuck me, man. At Okapi Daily asks, would you play Smash Ultimate when tournaments come back? No. Thank you guys for asking questions. I really do appreciate it. We'll be doing another AMA, I'm sure, soon. I actually really enjoyed doing this. Hopefully you guys did too. Feel free to ask some more questions down in the comments below. I might be able to reply to you. Make sure to subscribe to this video. We are really close to 10,000 subs, and I'd really appreciate it. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you next time. See ya.
Get into it.